Audio check. All right, there we go. Kings, queens, monarchs in between. Uh, Doing a throwback to NBA 2K18. Uh, the plan right now is to start a rebuild of the Detroit Pistons. As you may remember, the Pistons, basically ever since like 2007, uh, have seen a pretty sharp decline. So, Detroit Pistons. So, yeah, and even after they got Cade Cunningham, it wasn't all smooth sailing. Uh, they were one of the worst teams in NBA history not too long ago. One of the more talented, terrible teams, but just atrocious. And, I can't say with 100% certainty that they have ruined the Cade Cunningham era by just not making any significant moves to like get Cade a second option. There was some hope that Jaden Ivey would be that. Well, let's just say he ended up not. Uh, Tobias Harris was forced to be that at times. Uh, the Pistons have always had a pretty good record because of their defense. Well, I say always, but just over the past 2 years. Uh, but the offense has just consistently been not enough. So, uh, I'm going to sound like I'm quoting Mike Korzemba when I say this, but what if we could go back and prevent all of that? Just change the course of NBA history casually. No Cade Cunningham, no Blake Griffin trade. Just start a rebuild when the Pistons should have. I'm gonna have manual scouting on for the first couple seasons. Uh, I like to have a little bit more control over the prospects I'm taking a look at. So here we go. Auto-generate rookies. Staff. Clean house. Goodbye, Stan Van Gundy. Goodbye, Brendan Malone. Goodbye, other staff. Gotta bring in my guys. When in doubt, Fost it out. Lou Ham. Aiden Morgan. Probably didn't need to give him that much money, but I mean, what do I look like? The Portland Trailblazers? I'm not going to pinch pennies. Adam Saunders, my go-to assistant GM, and Twin Olsen, my go-to CFO. Team style, two-way transition athleticism, leans defense. I found that the three best team systems are balanced, 7 seconds, and defense. Is this cheating? Maybe. I don't care. So then this is definitely cheating. But you can't give a guy A plus potential and then cap his ability where it is. You just can't do that. And that's what this game does. They kind of do something similar with Nick Foster. They cap his ceiling at like a B plus, despite giving him A plus potential. That's just not right. So yeah, I've got my staff assembled. So who am I looking to trade by the end of the season? Well, I'd like to get rid of most, if not all, of my expiring contracts. So, Avery Bradley and Anthony Tolliver. And then on top of that, Reggie Jackson is only going to be getting more expensive and therefore harder to move. So I'm going to put him on the trade block. Andre Drummond. Oddly enough, Tobias Harris is going to be easier to trade after this season. Not 100% sure how the Pistons, or would that have been the Magic? I think that might have been the Magic. Managed to swing that deal. Yeah, it must have been the Magic because they traded him to the Pistons. Tobias Harris was kind of always just a better player in theory than he was in practice. But it was also never, like, terrible outside of some moments in Philly. What about John Lure? He's going to continue to get easier to trade. Ish Smith technically is going to be easier to trade because the salary cap is going to go up a little bit. Langston Galloway is going to continue to get more expensive, even though he's not that expensive. So these are the guys on the trade block. Avery Bradley, Anthony Tolliver, my expiring contracts. Reggie Jackson, Andre Drummond, and Langston Galloway. 3 guys who are going to continue to get more expensive. So then let's just take another solid look at the roster. See if I have any, like, potential building blocks. Stanley Johnson, worth taking a look at. One moment. Yeah, I mean, he's only 21 years old, but he is so bad on offense and not even really good enough on defense to justify it. Uh, I mean, just what is there to say about this guy? He was a pretty terrible dud in uh, an overall strong draft class. You know, he was taken 6 spots ahead of Devin Booker. Oof. Uh, you know, even Justice Winslow would have been a better pick. It's not like Justice Winslow was all that good either. Like, you know, the defensive tendencies are great, as one might expect from a guy with Stanley Johnson's reputation. But again, why does he have pick and roll maestro? His handle is garbage. He is not a ball handler. Point being, yeah, Stanley Johnson, I don't really have him in my future plans. Luke Kennard, though. Rookie Luke Kennard. Nuke Kennard, as he is known sometimes. Uh, this guy, I kind of like. You know, his jump shot, really, really solid. Uh, his playmaking ability is also pretty solid. The defensive tendencies are rough. You know, there's no fixing that. But Luke Kennard, solid player who I'm gonna at least try to build with. Uh, Henry Ellenson, another guy who in real life was an absolute dud for the Pistons. Drafted 18th overall in 2016. I'm not gonna pretend to remember who he was drafted over. Was that the Bobby Portis year? Or calling any draft the Bobby Portis year is just insane to me. Uh, Point being, yeah, I can't remember who all was available after pick 18 in that draft. Uh, Point being, Henry Ellenson. You know, there's a non-zero chance that he manages to make it work. So, Luke Kennard and Henry Ellenson are my two main building blocks. Not core pieces by any means, but just guys who could still be here when the team is when it's time to be good. Uh, let's see. Yep. And then, okay, you know what? Might as well convert Luis Montero to a full guaranteed contract. Uh, so then, outside of that, Bradley Tolliver, Reggie Jackson, Andre Drummond, Langston Galloway. So yeah, I guess now might be the time to look into moving Stanley Johnson. Just see what I can get for him. Move some first round picks around and get Bobby Portis. I don't hate that. Turn a 2018 second rounder, which is probably going to be a pretty high second rounder for Richard Jefferson, and a first rounder. And I'll keep looking. Sam Decker. Wasn't that guy kind of a weirdo? I don't know what kind of weirdo, but some brand of that boy ain't right. Rodney Magruder, Wayne Ellington. Throw in Boban Marjanovic. I can get Marvin Williams and a first round pick. Very tempting. Eric Favors, Thabo Sefolosha, Scalabissiere, Vince Carter, Ramon Sessions, Lance Thomas, Maurice Spates, Aaron Aflalo, J.J. Barea, Dorian Finney-Smith, Sean Kilpatrick, Quincy Acey. A favorable swap with the Nuggets. I'm pretty confident that I'm going to be worse than the Nuggets in 2019. So, I think I'll pass on that. Turn my second rounder this year into a 2019 first rounder, top 10 protected. I've seen better offers. Turn my 2021 second rounder into a top 3 protected 2020 pick. That's pretty tempting. TJ Warren. Unfortunately, this is not Bubble Warren. Lottery protected first round pick from the Thunder, and Dougie McBuckets. That's another tempting one. Justin Patton. That's a center. Mo Harkless. Just a flat out first rounder, and Zaza Pachulia. Tomas Satoransky. I'll take what Washington is throwing at me. Alright. So I am loaded with guards right now, so I'm going to put Satoransky in the G League. And then I'm also going to put Eric Moreland in the G League. So then, might as well set up my rotation. Yeah, sure, Reggie Jackson, Avery Bradley, Tobias Harris, John Lure, Andre Drummond, Ish Smith at the point, Galloway at the... no, I can't do that. Well, Galloway's the younger player. I'm trying to move Smith this season, so yeah, no. Well, there's room for both of these guys. None of my three options at point guard are good. Uh, and yeah, might as well do Ellenson at the 4, Marjanovic at the 5. And then Reggie Bullock and Luis Montero can split minutes at the 3. So, hopefully, this plan here can get Reggie Jackson's trade value up by not, like, giving him too much to do. Same with Avery Bradley. Tobias Harris. Yeah, you know what? Why not? And John Lure that. And then yeah, ultimately Andre Drummond is still the star. He might end up winning me too many games, but hopefully he has enough trade value that I can just trade him. Have Ish Smith and Langston Galloway split the backup point guard minutes. Luke Kennard at the 2. Bullock and Montero at the 3. Henry Ellenson, it looks like, is going to be leading my bench in minutes. And that is my lineup. That is certainly a lineup. This is going to be a rough season. Yeah, I'll stick with balanced. Standard playbook, average tempo. Reggie Jackson, pick and roll ball handler, 3-pointer, handoff cutter. Avery Bradley, secondary ball handler. Tobias Harris, sure. Lure, sure. I do not want Andre Drummond posting up. Ish Smith, do that. Galloway, do that. Luke Kennard, do that. Tolliver is not in the rotation. Reggie Bullock. Three-pointer cutter handoff. Roman cutter post up low for Boban. Roman cutter three-pointer for Henry Ellenson. Yeah, sure, have Montero with the ball in his hands sometimes. He's kind of a playmaker. And that's what I got. Let the season begin. I'm just going to do this month by month. Okay, well, I've accidentally built a good team in Detroit. Tobias Harris, Reggie Jackson for Rashawn Holmes, and J.J. Redick. Well, that is expiring money. I don't hate it. But I don't know. I feel like I can at least get draft picks. Maybe just a draft pick for Tobias Harris. You know, Reggie Jackson, if I'm lucky. But I don't know. Like I said, I feel like I can just get a little bit more. Alright, so after the month of October, we are 4-4. I mean, not really much to say. We are mid. Justin Patton, first round pick. Luke Kennard, no. I don't want to do that. Elfrid Payton and Evan Fournier for Avery Bradley and Boban Marjanovic. Now that's interesting. I don't. I mean, I was kind of an Elfrid Payton guy, but the man kind of just never had it. So I'll pass. Alright, time to start scouting. Well, the projected number 1 overall pick is a 1-year draft and stash wing out of Greece. I mean, he's worth looking at the very least. Okay, I'm not scouting a 24-year-old. Brendan Campbell doesn't really have length to speak of. Pause. Eh. And yeah, sure, Dwight Curry. Submit. Derek Favors and Joe Johnson for Andre Drummond and Reggie Bullock. Once again, I feel like I can just do better. Alright, so we're starting to slip. That's nice. Alright, so after November, we are 9-11. Still very mid. We are tied with the Pacers. Wait, how? They have a better winning percentage than us, but we're the same number of games behind the 1 seed. I don't understand that. This just does not compute. Alright, let's head into the new year then. After more scouting. Antonio McDyess, Daryl Arthur? Worth continuing to look into. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, that kind of ceiling would be worth waiting for. Carl Nelson. Yeah, maybe. Dwight Curry. John Sally. Dwayne Dedman. Alright. So, some solid prospects. Let's see, well, let's see if the scouting reports continue to bear fruit. Chris Bosch and Timofey Mozgov. No. Why would I do that? Let's just, move on very quickly from that. Lou Will, Pat Bev, for, again, another nothing trade. More scouting. 24. I'm not scouting anybody over the age of, like, 21. That being said, though, some of these guys are probably near the top of the draft for a reason, so Monte Day, I'll take a look. Francis Taft. Those are some pretty impressive measurables. 6'9", almost 290, 7'6" wingspan. That is a body. Still got two. Alright, that's some pretty impressive measurables. That not as much, but again, some of these guys are at or near, or some of those guys are in the spots for the... Okay, now that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, Jordan Clarkson is 2 years younger, also on a 3-year contract, but cheaper. And I get a second-round pick out of it. I think that seems like a pretty, slam dunk trade. Reggie this season, I mean, he's putting up 14 and a half and 5 assists, a steal on perfectly average efficiency, which would actually be the best of his career. Oof. And Jordan Clarkson is Jordan Clarkson. You know what he does. Yeah, sure, I'll make that trade happen. How many minutes is Clarkson playing? Alright, he's going to be playing more. Bradley, Harris, Luer, Drummond, Smith, Galloway, Kennard, Marjanovic, Ellenson, Reggie Bullock, and Luis Montero. Still running that 12-man rotation. Yeah, I'll just have Clarkson play the exact same minutes Reggie Jackson was. Bradley, stick with his minutes. Tobias, stick with his. Brewer, stick with his, and then Drummond, stick with his. Smith and Galloway do their things. Bullock and Montero do theirs. Alright, that was easy enough. We got our first major trade of the season done. Not really a splashy return. We got back Jordan Clarkson and a second-round pick. But that's more than I was expecting for Reggie Jackson alone. And then, yeah, have Clarkson just do the same stuff. So then we continue to move toward the new year. Marcus Morris and Aaron Baines for Jordan Clarkson and Reggie Bullock. I don't really see what I gain from that, so no. First round pick and Tyson Chandler for Avery Bradley. Okay, well, I did make the team a little bit cheaper by bringing in Jordan Clarkson. I think I can afford to get a little bit more expensive by adding Tyson Chandler. Plus, you know, it's an unprotected first-round pick. I'll take that. And they're adding a shooting guard when they already have Devin Booker. That was certainly a decision. Clarkson, get back in the starting lineup. Harris, Lure, Drummond. I question why the Suns would do that. Ellenson, Chandler. Alright, so yeah. Now I'm running an 11-man rotation. Let's see what we got here. I'll just give Luke Kennard Avery Bradley's old minutes. Then everybody else keeps theirs. I'm still just deeply confused as to why the Suns would do what they did. Give up a first-round pick for a shooting guard when you have Devin Booker. I mean, I'm not complaining. I benefit from this. Sorry, Boban. Since Boban's out of the rotation, might as well check on his season. He was giving us 6 points, 4.5 rebounds, and half a block in 12.5 minutes. That's pretty productive given his playing time. And pretty efficient. 54% from the field, 76% from the free throw line, 17, 12.5, and about 2 blocks and a steal per 36. 58% true shooting, a career low, but, still solid. So, yeah, now we have Tyson Chandler. Give him rollman and cutter. Pretty much all Chandler is good for offensively is lobs, putbacks, and screens. So, let's continue moving forward. Okay, well, we're on a 5-game win streak. Okay, we lost one, thankfully. And we won again. E'Twaun Moore and Quincy Pondexter for Jordan Clarkson and Luis Montero. Again, I just fail to see what I get out of this, aside from, being a little cheaper because of E'Twaun Moore. I don't want that. I don't want to pinch pennies, I want to get value. So, through the month of December, we are somehow the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, despite being under 500. Oh, mid to late 2010s Eastern Conference. Really post Michael Jordan, pre-2020 Eastern Conference. Oof. Do I have any contracts to extend? Just Harrison Chandler, who I plan on trading. Speaking of trades, might as well put a couple other guys on the block. Yeah, sure, put Tyson Chandler on the trade block. Yep. The team just continues to be very mid. So, let's see how we get through January. Will we feel a chill, or Kerry Kittles, Bryn Forbes? What type of player is this? I'm curious enough to keep scouting him. Kevin Seraphin, Justin Hamilton. He's a post scorer. He's a playmaker. He's a rim protector. Gross. And he's a shooter. So I've got two new spots opened up. Yeah, sure, I'll look into Dion. Yeah, sure, and I'll look into Reed Claxton. This does not look like a great draft outside of the number 1 overall pick And that number one overall pick is someone you're going to have to wait a year for. So, overall, not a very good draft. TJ Warren, and no. Just no. I'm not trading Andre Drummond for that. Like, I get it. Drummond, very overrated when he was in Detroit. But definitely worth more than that in his prime. Time for more scouting. Okay, I like that type of player. Arinza Onowaku. Alright, so gotta find a bunch of whole new players to scout. There really don't seem to be a ton of players available with, like, good wingspans. Though there are some players with good measurables. That is a big boy. Basically 7 feet tall, 290, 7'6" wingspan. We'll have to see what kind of player he actually is. Mike Conley for Andre Drummond and a second-round pick. I get it. Mike Conley has more trade value, but I don't know. That just... Something doesn't feel right about that, considering Conley is like 7 years older. So I'm going to pass on that. Mo Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu for Jordan Clarkson and Luis Montero. 24 and 27, 25 and 24. So I get a little bit older for two very tradable wings. You know what? Sure, why not? I can trade these guys in the off-season. Though I'm pretty sure I now have a bit of a logjam at the wing spots. Yeah, Tobias Harris, Mo Harkless, Al-Farouq Aminu, Reggie Bullock. I think the smart thing to do in this case would be to trade John Leuer. Open up some power forward minutes. Nick Stauskas. John Henson and Spencer Hawes. Robin Lopez. J.R. Smith. Throw in Satoransky. Get Pat Bev and Wes Johnson. No. James Ennis, Brandon Wright. Dwayne Dedman and a second-round pick? That would create a bit of a logjam at the 5, though. Wayne Ellington, Udonis Haslem, Devin Harris, Jan Mahinmi, Willie Cauley-Stein, another logjam at center waiting to happen. I mean, that's the type of move I make if I'm, like, trading Andre Drummond tomorrow. If it's a Zubats? Okay, that's interesting. Especially if I also get rid of Reggie Bullock. Very tempting, Los Angeles. Very tempting. That's just trading two forwards for two centers. I don't know why I would do that. Marvin Williams, Timofey Mozgov, Tyler Lydon, and a second round pick. Big Al, Etwan Moore, Alan Williams, and a second round pick. Myers Leonard, and a second round pick swap best. I think I'm gonna go with the Lakers. I save a little bit of money, and I get a 20-year-old center who, does all the boring big man things. Knows where to be on defense and when, good rebounder, good screener. He's just a solid player. I like Zubats. I'm bringing him in. Which does mean I feel like now is the time to trade Andre Drummond. So, what can I get for Drummond? I can get J.J. Redick's expiring contract. As well as a first-round pick from the Sixers in 2020. Dwight Howard, that's just the same problem. Zach LaVine. Okay. Well, that's tempting. That is very tempting. Jay Crowder, J.R. Smith, Al Horford, none of that does anything for me. DeAndre Jordan, no. Mike Conley, no. Whiteside, no. Batum and Frank the Tank, no. Willie Cauley-Stein, no. Tim Hardaway Jr., no. Brook Lopez, Reggie Bullock, no. Evan Fournier, Nikola Vucevic, no. Wesley Matthews, J.J. Barea, Chris Bosh, Timofey Mozgov, Victor Oladipo, Lance Stevenson, Clint Capella, Ryan Anderson, Tony Parker, Danny Green, Zach Collins, Iguodala and Sean Livingston, no. Otto Porter and a second-round pick, no. So, I think what I'm going with is Zach LaVine. Yeah. Give. Thank you, Chicago. I just acquired another building block in Zach LaVine. I mean, in 2K18, he's kind of just a scorer, but unlike in real life, he also does keep the turnovers down. So, automatic scorer plus decent enough decision making. So now we've got Robin Lopez, Tyson Chandler. Kind of think those guys need to go too. So that both Zubats and Henry Ellenson can have minutes. What can I get for Robin Lopez? Hi, Chandler Parsons. Garrett Temple. Now that is a player. DJ Augustine. I mean, I could use a point guard. Solomon Hill, I get a second rounder out of that. I think I'm going to go with Garrett Temple. Not really anything special, but I mean, it's Garrett Temple. And then Tyson Chandler, what can I get for him? Cristiano Felicio. Luol Deng, DJ Augustine. Alright, well, I found a worse contract than Tyson Chandler. Even though Omer Asik is less expensive, he's also significantly worse and still getting paid over $10 million to not play for the Pelicans. So, yeah, sure. Give me a second round pick and Omer Asik. See if I care. So, got Langston Galloway, Tomas Satoransky, Zach LaVine and Luke Kennard, Zubats and Ellenson at the 5. And then for now, Harris, Harkless, and Aminu, kind of all rotating around in the forward spots. So, yeah. Kind of just blew up the team in the middle of the season, as the Pistons should have done. I'm going to have to call up Satoransky. I need a backup point guard. Yeah, fair enough. So Eric Moreland is the only player staying in the G League. Contracts: LaVine, Harris, Aminu, Asik. LaVine is the only expiring contract. So yeah, Langston Galloway, Tomas Satoransky, Zach LaVine, and Luke Kennard. Get out of here, Anthony Tolliver. Yeah, sure, I'll start Harkless. And then, sure, Zubats. You know what, I'll give Garrett Temple some minutes at the 3. There we go. Harkless gets 27. Tobias Harris gets 36. Zubats is going to get 27. We're going back to, like, normal player minutes. Zach LaVine is going to be getting 36 minutes, though. Because he's kind of the best player on the team. Then, yeah, Satoransky. I hate to put Luke Kennard on the bench when he has the hot hand, but... yeah, there we go. And then Henry Ellenson coming off the bench for about 20 minutes for Zubats. Oh, this should be fun. So Luke Kennard did start how many games? 13. He averaged about 12 points, 5 assists, 3.5 rebounds, half a steal. Shot 39% from 3, which is better than his season average. So, you know, Luke Kennard, pretty awesome. Harris, Harkless, Zubats, Satoransky, Kennard, Garrett Temple, Al-Farouq Aminu, and Henry Ellenson. Yeah, sure, give Garrett Temple that. Give Zach LaVine that. Brewer, not in rotation. Rollman Cutter for Zubats. Three-pointer Rollman Cutter for Aminu. Three-pointer, wait a minute. Three-pointer Rollman Cutter for Harkless. Pick and roll ball handler, three-pointer handoff cutter for Satoransky. Moreland is still in the G League. Henry Ellenson, his role is the same, even though he's, you know, doing different stuff. Marjanovic not in rotation. Tolliver not in rotation. Luke Kennard, yep. Langston Galloway, yep. And Tobias Harris, yep. Only two guys left on the trade block are Anthony Tolliver and Langston Galloway. Do I have any more expiring contracts that I want to get rid of? Corey Brewer, and maybe Garrett Temple. I can't really see either of those guys really going for much. But you never know. So let's just fast forward to the trade deadline, shall we? Well, we lost by double digits to the Nets. Love to see it. Lost by 1 to the Jazz. At least we put up a fight. Kyle O'Quinn, Joakim Noah for Henry Ellenson and Corey Brewer. I don't really see the benefit there. Yes, I get 2 better centers than what I have now, but Kyle O'Quinn is weird, and Joakim Noah is just kind of terrible. Like, I like Joakim Noah. I'm a Bulls fan. I will always love Joe. But after his Defensive Player of the Year season, he was kind of terrible. No. Why would I do that? And we beat the Cavs, that's just funny. Will Perdue, sure. Corey Brewer, gross. Yeah, sure, keep looking into O'Gallagher. Leroy, not Jenkins. Huh. Yeah, sure, I guess look into AC Cannon. Sure, Bernard Barlow. Submit. Alright, we are at the bottom of the playoff picture now. No. Why would I want to trade Zach LaVine? I just got him. Lost to the Nets again. Love that. So the only player eligible for a contract extension that I really care about wants to test free agency. That's rough. I guess the only players that I would really like to trade are Tolliver and Brewer. Which, you know what? Good luck getting anything out of either of these guys. They're not in the rotation, and for good reason. It's one of those, if I can get something of value for them, cool. If not, then I just won't trade them. Well, that is something of value. Maybe. Sure, I'll take Alexis Ajinça and a second-round pick. And then Corey Brewer. If I throw in Eric Moreland, I get a second-round pick and Joakim Noah. Am I allowed to be disappointed? No Dwight Powell slander. Alright, so I get cheaper, and I move one of my second-round picks forward a year. I don't hate that. Sure, why not? And then I'll just waive Damian Wilkins. And then I'll sign Aaron Harrison to a 2-year, $4.1 million deal. And then I'll immediately put him in the G League, right alongside Eric Moreland. So, Galloway, Levine, Harris, Harkless, Ellenson. Look, even though he's playing well, I don't want Ellenson starting over Zubats. Then, yeah, Temple. Harris does that. Harkless does that. Zubats does that. Levine does that. And then, yeah, Galloway continues to do that. Henry Ellenson, who is for some reason at the top of my bench rotation. Oops. There we go. I really would just like to find ways to make Luke Kennard and Zach LaVine like work on the floor together, but the only way I can think of would be a point forward, which I'm not so sure of my odds of finding one. Did I add anybody new to my rotation? I did not. So let's sim past the trade deadline. Well, we won our one game after the trade deadline. Tobias Harris dropped 27. Langston Galloway and Tomas Satoransky had 14 on vastly different efficiencies. Zach LaVine had a bad game. Mo Harkless had 5 steals. Zubats had 10 and 8. Aminu had 10 rebounds. He also had 5 turnovers, though. Gross. So let's see how everybody has been doing. Langston Galloway on the season, career high field goal percentage, career high 3-point percentage, and career high free throw percentage. He is just the most efficient he has ever been. He's still not good, but he's pretty efficient. As a starter, he has averaged 12, 3, and 3 on pretty atrocious shooting splits, aside from the 89% at the free throw line. So make of that what you will. Zach LaVine. Well, his minutes have increased during his time in Detroit, so I would hope his productivity has as well. 65.5% true shooting, and an acceptable assist-to-turnover ratio. I'd like for that to be better. I don't know how many games he has played for the Pistons, but over the course of January and February, he has averaged, I don't know, probably about 25 points a game on pretty crazy shooting splits. He did not miss a free throw in the month of February. He just didn't. He also did that in October, but it's much more impressive in February because more games. So, yeah. Zach LaVine got to Detroit and immediately started playing the best basketball of his life. And I love that for him. Tobias Harris on the season. 15 points, 4 rebounds, and assist. Pretty lame basketball he's playing. Basically the same number of minutes. He's less productive, less efficient, and he's turning the ball over more. Mo Harkless on the season, averaging 8.7 points, 3.5 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 0.7 blocks, shooting 50% from the field, 56% true shooting, and his assist-to-turnover ratio is atrocious. Zubats. Doesn't seem to have started any games for LA. On the season, he is averaging 7 points, 5.5 rebounds, a block. Per 36, his stats look pretty solid. Efficiency is about the same as it was last year in what I would call a bigger role. So, make of that what you will. Satoransky, he's been good in the limited amount of time he's played for me. Reasonable efficiency, terrific assist-to-turnover ratio. Yeah. Kennard, 39% on his threes, 43% from the field. Per 36, 15.5, 5.1, 4 rebounds. Almost 57% true shooting and a terrific assist-to-turnover ratio. Yeah, he's basically quadrupling his turnovers as assists. That's pretty awesome. Garrett Temple, he's just playing so much less in Detroit than he did in Sacramento. Aminu. Both he and Harkless are playing slightly more minutes in Detroit than in Portland. It's Aminu and Harkless. You know what they're about. Henry Ellenson. Improved basketball from last season for whatever that's worth. 7 points, 6 rebounds, a block. Per 36, 12, 10, 2 blocks. 50% true shooting, which is still atrocious. But again, better. Award races, yada yada yada. I don't have any Rookie of the Year contenders. I don't have any Sixth Man of the Year contenders. I don't have any Defensive Player of the Year contenders, although Andre Drummond allegedly has been one. Yeah, he's putting up like 17, 14, and like 4 stocks. Efficiency continues to be eh. Actually, not just eh. Flat out not good. And nobody in the most improved player race. Nobody from my team made the All-Star, unsurprisingly. Nobody in the dunk contest. Nobody in the three-point contest. So let's move on to the contract extension deadline. Alright, so who are we scouting? Yeah, sure, keep scouting Zach Conley. Keep scouting Leroy Brewer. No need to continue scouting AC Cannon. Alright, there's a 20-year-old. There's another one. Sure. And yeah, why not? Terry Wilkins. Pretty impressive measurables. 6'5", 7-foot wingspan, 204. Little skinny, but got length. Alright, now what do we got? A loss, I love it. And we win against the Bucks. I'm okay, snapping a losing streak. And yeah, LaVine has still decided to test free agency. Fair enough. I suppose it's time to just finish out the season. Since not really anything more of note can happen. Corey Brewer, Anthony Brown, Aaron Aflalo, George Lynch. Keep scouting him. Keep scouting him. Keep scouting him. Keep scouting him. Alright, yeah, sure, scout Shane Dantley and Chip Irving. After this one, I think I'm gonna have the auto scouting take care of the rest, because I don't really know what I'm going to learn from continued scouting trips of these guys. So yeah, automate. At least for this season. And then over the off season, I can take a more in-depth look at the prospects, and hopefully decide on a potential face of the franchise because, we're bad. We did hit 30 wins, 31. Stop winning. Stop winning. Why? 33 wins. Steph Curry, Markelle Fultz, Jeremy Lin, Hassan Whiteside, CJ McCollum. Two-time most improved player, CJ McCollum. That's just funny. Which, I mean, to be fair, going from 23 to 29, 3.6 assists to 5.7, increasing your efficiency both as a scorer and as a playmaker. Fair enough. And Steve Kerr wins Coach of the Year, who's surprised. Now put your hand down. Warriors, Thunder, Cavs, Bucks, Pelicans, Timberwolves, Warriors, Thunder, Raptors, Rockets, Blazers, Raptors, Pelicans, Spurs, Grizzlies, Heat, Warriors, Pelicans, Rockets, Wizards, Thunder, Timberwolves, Cavs, Bucks, Bulls, Mavs, Clippers, Sixers, Lakers, Sixers, Celtics, Kings, Suns, Hornets, Bulls. I don't really find it all that surprising that Luke Kennard didn't make the all-rookie team. The all-rookie team in 2K18 is pretty difficult to make that first season. So Zach LaVine on the year averaged basically 21.5 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Very efficient. Solid assist-to-turnover ratio. Tobias Harris, 17, 5. Solid efficiency. It's Tobias Harris. What are you expecting? Harkless. I think he got worse. Zubats, 8.5, 6.5, 1.5 blocks on improved efficiency from his previous season. So he was better with the Pistons. Satoransky on the season, 6 points on decent shooting splits, 3.5 assists, 2.2 rebounds. Alright, efficiency very mediocre. Luke Kennard on the season. Yeah, his 3-point percentage seems to scale up with the volume of shots that he takes. So, make of that what you will. 57% true shooting, really good assist-to-turnover ratio. Per 36, he did attempt 5.6 threes per, 36 minutes. Pretty solid volume. Garrett Temple, yeah. Al-Farouq Aminu, yeah. And Henry Ellenson. Kind of regressed a little bit after being moved to center. But still improved from last year, for whatever that's worth. So yeah, that's the season. What do we have shaping up in the playoffs? Wow, the Warriors and Cavs dominated their conferences, and then the Warriors swept for the championship. Who would have thought? And Kevin Durant dominated, putting up 26 points, 10 rebounds over 3 stocks, good assist to turnover ratio, shot 40% from 3. Mavericks, Timberwolves, Cavs, Spurs, Cavs. Dirk Nowitzki and Paul Pierce made it into the Hall of Fame. Cool. Don't really like any of the changes, so none of them will be accepted. League realignment, whatever. Draft lottery. And thanks to the Phoenix Suns, I have the 5th best odds. And I also have the 6th best odds because I was bad too. I'd like for at least one of my picks to move into the top 3. I don't need both. I don't need to have 1 and 2. But come on, lottery odd gods. Can I have a top 3 pick with what appears to be a 14.1% chance at number 1? I think. Thanks to the Suns, I got number 2. And my own pick did move down from 6 to 7. Is what it is. And I don't have any other first round picks this year, but you know, I'll take 2 lottery picks. Staff signing. Logan Schmidt improved. Aiden Morgan improved a lot. Luther Hamilton improved. Nice. Let's fast forward to draft day. That is a lot of injury concerns. In the second round, I also have picks 7 and 21. I might try to move up for an extra first round pick. So, what can I get for Tobias Harris's expiring contract? I could get Tony Snell and a first round pick from the Bucks. That'd be funny. Send him back to Milwaukee, where he started his career. If I'm remembering correctly, he got to Milwaukee as part of the... He was drafted by the Bobcats, but was then traded to Milwaukee in the Bismack Biyombo Jimmer Fredette trade. Oh my goodness. But yeah, sending him back to the Bucks would be funny. Is anybody willing to just give me 2 first round picks for this guy? As a matter of fact, the Spurs are. And I will take that offer. The Spurs, for whatever reason, after that first year, usually have a very sharp decline. Now, maybe adding Tobias Harris will prevent that, or maybe it won't. All I know is the Spurs are very willing to trade first-round picks, and they usually fall off hard. Boban Marjanovic. Yeah, sure, I'll take Tony Bradley in a second rounder. What can I get for Tony Bradley? Yeah, sure. Send him to the Grizzlies for a couple second-round picks. So, question is, What direction do I plan on going in this draft? Obviously, I would love to get Leftos Alexandris because he has by far the highest ceiling in the draft. 6'8", can play both forward spots. Not a terrific wingspan, but, you know, he's pretty solid. Extremely athletic. He can shoot. Wait, no, not athletic. That's actually surprising for this type of player. Usually these guys jump out of the gym. That's pretty, I mean, like I said, surprising. But, you know, even with his lacking athleticism, the skill set kind of speaks for itself. He can score. He's a decent defender and rebounder. Shot tendency is somewhere in the 60s. Doesn't really like his jump shots. Prefers to attack the basket, I'm guessing. Yeah, standing and driving layup are both well above small forward average. Again, likes his layups, doesn't settle for floaters. Likes to dunk the ball. So even if he's not jumping out of the gym, I think I'd be drafting Larry Bird if I got this guy. Like, he gives that vibe. I mean, aside from the whole really likes to dunk the ball thing. But I mean, Larry Bird had some dunks. They were boring dunks. But they were dunks nonetheless. Drive tendency is high. Attack strong and dish to open man are quite good. Likes to throw lobs. Cool. Foul tendency is about where I want it to be. And his defensive tendencies are rock solid. Good team defender. Acrobat, catch and shoot, corner specialist, deep range deadeye, defensive stopper, limitless range, pick and pop, pick dodger, relentless finisher, up and under, laid back, low ego, and reserved. Ted Ferguson, yeah, whatever. 24-year-old rookie, I don't want to draft that. Eddie Johnson, Raymond Felton, Alonzo Mourning, high ceiling, but poor measurables. Okay, so we're getting up to Alec Burks now with Monte Day. That still doesn't tell me anything. Alright, so what I want to do is, well, trade up for the number 1 pick. So who was it that got number 1? The Sacramento Kings. Who else? You know what? I'd be willing to trade number 2. There's not really anyone I like in, like, the 2 to 5 range. Would just Satoransky in number 2 get it done? Nope. And you know what? Fair enough, considering the generational prospect available. Pistons, Wizards, Spurs. Uh, yeah, sure. I'll trade the Wizards pick in 2020 to sweeten the pot. There we go. I now have the number 1 overall pick. So, got Langston Galloway as a guard, Garrett Temple as a guard. Garrett Temple is probably going to stay. $8 million is definitely more than he's probably worth at this point in his career, though he is a player that I like. Luke Kennard, obviously a 2 guard for me. And, since I'm drafting a point forward, even though he's not going to be over for another year, that can make Zach LaVine at point guard work. Oh yeah, I have Aaron Harrison on this team. I think I'm gonna keep Aminu and Harkless. I don't really have small forwards if they're not on the roster. Galloway is the only point guard I have. Don't really need Ajinça, Harrison, or Asik. Okay, well, what can I get for Ajinça and Harrison? Hi, San Antonio. Yeah, you know what? I'll just take another first round pick, 2 first round picks really, from San Antonio. Why not? Then, yeah, what can I get for Asik? Yeah, sure, I'll take number 46 in this draft. Can second round picks 16 and 21 get me number 30? Not quite. What if I give Golden State a favorable second round swap in 2021? Yeah, fair enough. What if I just give them my second round pick in 2021? Thank you. Did I even need another draft pick? Probably not. So, I have Langston Galloway and insert backup point guard here. Might be Zach LaVine. Got Harkless and Aminu at the 3. Or, well, they're going to be playing both forward spots because of, because of that whole thing. The draft and stash. There we go. That's the word. Then yeah. Eric Moreland, I'm gonna trade. When did he tear a right elbow ligament? But yeah, Eric Moreland is gonna get traded. Uh, so I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to draft after my number one pick. Kind of just depends on what's available. And then after I get my rookies signed, I'm going to call it a night. Uh, it's getting a little bit late. So yeah, with the number one pick, I am taking Leftos Alexandris. He averaged almost 30 points a game playing basketball in Greece. He is pretty clearly the best player in the draft, and I mean, despite the draft and stash, he's the obvious number one pick. So now we move on to 7. Only position I don't really feel like I need to draft is center. I guess also shooting guard because Zach LaVine. And, why am I blanking on his name? Luke Kennard. So I could use a point guard or a small forward. What do the point guards look like? The only one projected to go around 5 is a very undersized draft and stash. How about the small forwards? Alright, maybe. Anthony Brown. Alright, yeah. Dion Peacock is projected to go a bit later as well. I suppose I'm going to trade back about 10 spots. Well, 23. Would the Celtics be willing to do that? No, they would not. What if I throw in 23? Yes. Cool. Move 1 pick back and 1 pick forward. Brendan Campbell. I'm going to pass on that. I do not want Chandler Parsons on my team. No. Still no. Alright, I didn't see any of the guys I wanted go. So I suppose I shall draft Dion Peacock? Yeah, Aaron Cook isn't projected to go until the second round. He's very safe for now, so Dion Peacock. It is a bit of a reach, but I don't really like any of the players in this draft. And the Celtics have traded Al Horford for number 13 and Omer Asik. Is it just me, or is that kind of selling low on Al Horford, considering what he was in 2018? Hi, Monte. And the Warriors have traded a couple of future first round picks for number 16 and Cristiano Felicio. Interesting. And the Warriors draft a big man in the first round, no less. So, yeah, I guess I'll be drafting Aaron Cook. And then I'm going to simulate to pick 30. So I have drafted a small forward who will not be joining the team for a year, a small forward who will be a rookie next season, and a point guard who will also be playing for me next season. As far as what I could use after that, the answer, as ever, is Alright, so what does this guy do? Fancies himself a scorer. He likes his mid range shots. He also likes the three ball. He likes to dunk. Drive tendency is pretty solid. Not a playmaker. And his defensive tendencies are what they are. I think I know the type of player this guy is. Question is, I have a trio of defensive forwards. So I think I can afford to draft a guy who's pretty much just a shooter. He's not a good shooter, but, a guy who's going to get threes up. Yeah, sure, give me Zach Conley. UNLV. So, Leftos Alexandris. I've already gone over his tendencies and badges. Slightly more athletic than he was expected to be, which is nice. His potential is 99, so I don't have to send him to untapped potential. Cool. He's a rock solid all around wing. He can shoot, even though he's not really, he doesn't take a whole lot of jumpers. He's got some room to grow as a slasher and playmaker, but he's pretty solid at those things. Defense is decent. Rebounding is alright. Basketball IQ is good. I think he's going to be a really good player once he hits the league. Dion Peacock. He can shoot a little bit, he can defend a little bit, he can play make a little bit. His athleticism, or potential, 76, Not exactly desirable, but, he might become something. Likes his mid-range shots, doesn't really like the three. Step through, layups. Looks like this guy likes to go to work inside the arc when he decides he's going to score because, again, low shot tendency. Kind of likes to dunk the ball. Drive tendency is high. Attack strong and dish to open man are both high. And his defensive tendencies are pretty decent. Both of his steal tendencies are above average. Contest shot tendency is above 60. That's about what I look for in a wing. He also likes to take charges, so I like that. Pick dodger, friendly, low ego. Aaron Cook. He has a mid-range shot. That seems to be just about all he has. He's a pretty atrocious playmaker for a point guard. Defense is bad, which he's 6'1" with a 6'4" wingspan. I'm not expecting, like, Gary Payton. Terrible rebounding, not really athletic. Upside is not all that good. This guy is the point guard of all time, by the looks of it. Shot 3 tendency of about 40, mid-range tendency of 55. Really likes to get to the basket and do some layups, doesn't settle for floaters, likes to dunk the ball, despite not really being all that athletic, and 6'1". Drive tendency is high, I like that. Attack strong is good, dish to open man is definitely more secondary ball handler coded. And oddly enough, his defensive tendencies are pretty good. Also really likes to throw lobs. Friendly, microwave, and pat my back. So this guy is a microwave scorer off the bench and not really much else. Which, you know what, I can work with that. Or at the very least, I can try to. Zach Conley. Well, he's a project. His scoring is His defense and rebounding are His potential exists. 79, that's actually pretty good, especially for the 30th pick. So I took a swing on a guy with pretty high upside. Now, whether he capitalizes on that, who knows? He has tireless scorer, for whatever that's worth. I don't know, I feel like I did a decent job in the draft. Qualifying offers, definitely want to have Zach LaVine be a restricted free agent. So, Langston Galloway and Aaron Cook are my point guards. Oh boy. I have Garrett Temple as... I think Garrett Temple might be playing some 3. Alexandris is going to be coming over in a year. Yeah, I think I might be going with Garrett Temple and Dion Peacock as my small forwards. Harkless and Aminu Harkless, Aminu, and Conley as my power forward rotation, and then Zubats and Ellenson at the 5. Yep, what can I get for Eric Moreland? Yeah, sure, I'll take Charlotte's 2022 second round pick. And Zach LaVine, I will offer a 5-year deal. $23 million in the first year, and then it'll decline by 5% every year after that. Alright, there's Josh Hustis, and... no Jeremy Grant? There's Jeremy Grant. Yeah, I'm gonna sign him to a 4-year deal, very cheap. And then Josh Hustis, also to a 4-year deal, very cheap. And just like that, I just remembered I was going to call it a night after the draft. So I'm going to call it a night for real. Have a good one. Don't crash and burn out there.